with the new sequence and the structure. We'll also know the structure of that molecule, and we can take this structure computationally and put it in our simulations also. So we can essentially do everything end to end in a simulation through AI, which was not possible earlier. We had to go through multiple steps and different things. So this would significantly reduce the time. So clinical trials for human beings will anyway take time, because human beings will have to come in and do it. But apart from that clinical trial phase, anything in the drug discovery pipeline can be automated or accelerated, reducing the amount of time from, like, say 12 to 15 years to at least 5 years, if not less. Because the first 7 years, where from before the clinical stage, so the preclinical stage, the 7 years, 6 to 7 years, can be automated and streamlined to be put in 6 months. And I'm still giving you 6 months because AI is still evolving. We still have to cross verify a lot of things, and that's why 6 months. But that's also a major leap, that you are reducing years to months, and that will help us accelerate drug discovery faster. So some basics. I know I was not exactly sure how much you guys would understand about AI already. So I came up with a few definitions that you would want to know, so that you can navigate the space and start learning more about it. So certain things that you should definitely know. So I gave you the definition of artificial intelligence in the beginning of the class, that AI is nothing but trying to mimic certain aspects of human intelligence. Only certain aspects. Those are the terms that you need to know. Machine learning is a subset of AI. Machine learning, by the name suggests, is essentially where we teach computers how to learn without guiding them, or without explicitly giving them the rule book. So we don't tell the model that, we don't tell our computers that, hey, A for apple, B for boy. We give them apple, boy, and all of this. Model tells us that A for is apple, B for boy. This is the logic. That's how you understand. So how did we achieve all of this? Is that we designed a framework, a mathematical structure. So we basically designed a model, which is nothing but these mathematical instructions written in code. So you might see your computer science friends coding and writing programs and all of that. So the model is nothing but writing different mathematical equations, or writing a complex mathematical structure together, and then you feed the data in. So like I was telling you about Excel files, numbers, text, images. So you can feed in all your experiments data. You can feed in documentation for the trials, the clinical trials. You can feed in all the policies and all the compliances that you need for your project. And the model will study the data and come up with an association or a pattern, and would start evaluating whatever the task that you wanted. So we are not giving the model the pattern or the final rule book. The model looks at the data and is able, now I'll tell you, this is the key term, is able to understand the data and able to recognize patterns. Now, I know this might not sit well with a lot of people who don't explicitly understand artificial intelligence, but it's not very complicated. It's very, very similar to how our bodies build proteins. Our bodies, study the DNA. Essentially, what the DNA does is, DNA has some instructions, some mathematical structure. I wouldn't say mathematical, chemical structure. DNA has some chemical structure and follows some chemical rules. Then it studies the data in the cell, right? It sees the data in the cell, which molecules are available, what is the need, what is the requirement, if there's a disease going on or not. And then based on that data, information or cues or chemical signals that it gets from the cell, DNA transcribes and then translates into proteins. And protein is nothing but the action molecule, or the actual molecule that goes and acts or does or evaluates whatever the entire process was built on. So whatever triggered DNA to replicate and not replicate, kind of like get translated into proteins, that protein will go and act on it to either resolve it or exhibit like accelerate it or decelerate it or resolve it completely if it's a disease or whatever the action the protein was there for. So we are essentially copying or getting inspired from nature. We see DNA, the genetic code in our bodies, in everything living, and all of this code translates into actions, which is proteins. And this is exactly what AI is. This is exactly what computers are doing today. They translate code. So you might have studied in school that computers have zeros and ones, the binary code. So it translates those binary codes into meaningful informations based on some mathematical rules that we gave them. And then it gets translated into all of this. So it reaches the point from that binary code to a software where the software is able to predict drug toxicity or predict other criteria or other characteristics for a particular drug candidate based on the data that we fed or based on millions of data points that we gave it. I hope, guys, this is clear. If there are any doubts, I would really like for you to, go ahead and write it in the chat. Now, deep learning is just an advanced version of machine learning. The reason why it's called deep learning is because it uses more complex mathematical structures. So machine learning uses very simple models. These are statistical models like, predicting y on the value of x. So you guys might have learned y equals to mx plus c or the line of an equation, something which was in mathematics in like 7th or 8th grade. So, if we have the value of x at different intervals, can we predict the value of y at a certain x interval is what machine learning helps you do essentially. Deep learning becomes a more, advanced class of AI, which looks at not just, a single prediction of y. So just not on the basis of one variable or one molecule. It looks at many x's. So it'll look at x1, x2, x3, x4, and like that. And then it'll try to predict y. So it'll look at many things, many complicated things, and then predict y. And I think one of the major examples that have taken the storm is like, AlphaFold. So AlphaFold's previous generations, the AlphaFold is a model name basically, and it had many generations. So previous generations were on machine learning and deep learning, but the latest generation, the last year one generation that came out, is on generative AI. So what is generative AI? Essentially ChatGPT or any AI model which generates new things, either new molecules, new text or images based on whatever data they have learned is Gen AI in the AI space. And all of this is a subset of the bigger or the larger field that you see, which is artificial intelligence. Now, essentially, data can be anything. For you guys to understand what data means, it can be molecular structures, clinical trial results, experimental data, genomic sequences, protein sequences. And all of this data can be translated into either numbers, text, or images, or all of them put together. And computer science or AI can iterate over numbers, text, and images. The context or the meaning changes in pharmacy or in drug discovery, of course. So for drug discovery, text would mean, molecular structures or genome.